It's really disappointing to see. I'm so close. Hey everyone, it's Nate. Doing another day hike here. So I'm attempting a route that is not often attempted. I am trying to summit Truchas Peak as a day hike from the west. This area in general is not very well visited. There's a lot of old, decade old reports about vandalism, and that kind of chases people off. Not to mention, the roads out here are kind of a maze. They're pretty rough. Definitely to get to this trailhead, the Rio Quemado trailhead, you need a high clearance 4-wheel drive vehicle. There's no two ways about it. It was pretty gnarly. Not terribly bad, but in rain or any kind of weather, it might get much rougher. So I put the chances that I summit Truchas Peak at about 50%. Is a long hike, probably 16 miles round trip when all is said and done, and about probably a third of that at least is off trail. Thankfully, part of that off trailness is open country, so hopefully things aren't too bad there. But there are a couple reports of this route being done as either a long day hike / trail run or backpacking trip, making it a loop with the Rio Medio Trail, which I did last year. Not the summit, but I was on the Rio Medio Trail. And a lot of the reports talk about how bad the down trees are. Now, I'll say that at first, it wasn't too bad. But then we entered the wilderness area where obviously they can't cut wood with chainsaws. And then it got significantly worse. Now, is it Escadilla Mountain bad? Absolutely not. It's so far, anyway, it's not been too bad. Knock on wood. No pun intended. So the other reason why I put the odds sort of slim is there's a pretty significant chance of storms today after about 2 or 3 o'clock. I don't mind hiking as long as I'm below tree line with that happening, because I think they'll be highly localized. But it's still monsoon season sort of. It's sort of dying off, but it's never good to be above tree line past noon. And I'd love to have gotten an earlier start, but like I said, this area is sort of a maze of forest roads of varying quality. Never impassable that I saw, but never what I would call good. And it just didn't seem like a good idea to get here at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, way before sunrise. So got about a 6:30 start. And anyway, I'll stop blabbing here. If nothing else, I'm pretty confident I'll hit the dome, which is it's a named peak anyway. Fall is coming to the high country. Hopefully that means fall is coming to the low country, because it's been hot the last few days. Okay, well, we've hit the marked intersection of the dome and Rio Quemado trails. We're following the dome trail. Here's an example of how bad the deadfall can be. This is the trail in front of me, and then look at that dam right in front of it. Not fun. Okay, we made it to the dome. It's 8:40, a little later. I'd like to be here, hoping I can make that up a little bit. We're at about 11,350 feet, which means we're about halfway elevation wise. I'm not so sure mileage wise. But hopefully the deadfall is much reduced for the rest of the trip. That's really what's been slowing me down, is the deadfall. It was pretty gnarly. In my written trip report, I'll talk about where the deadfall was worse, but I'm going to sign the summit register, then do some active recovery. And when I get to the saddle slightly to the east of here, I'll probably drink some water and have a snack bar. Okay, leaving the dome. Here's where, according to the trip reports, the deadfall is supposed to let up a little bit, so fingers crossed that that's true. First glimpse at today's goal. Well, this is basically where I get off trail to go up to the peak. You can see that there's the trail, and this is the way I'm going to be going, just kind of up this ridge up to the peak. Getting a nice view from it over here, I'll show you in a second. But basically what I'm planning on doing is caching some food and water right here, and then picking it up on my way back, because I'm not doing this as a loop, I'm doing it as an out and back. And I've got about 1,400 vertical feet to go, about 1.5 miles, maybe, well, a little bit more, maybe 2 miles. And I really want to have as little weight on me as possible. I think that's North Truchas, but it might not be. That might be Medio Truchas actually, because I think that's South Truchas right there. It's really disappointing to see. It's so close, and if it starts getting cloudy and thundery now, I'm going to turn back, being only like 1 mile away. And I hope that doesn't happen, but I knew that was a risk. The weather app, these weather apps are only so accurate. They show 4% chance of rain at noon, which is probably when I'll get to the peak. It's about 10:45 right now. And yeah, I really hope those move on. We've crested out. We're above tree line for the most part. Looks like we sort of dip back down below it. But man, this is such a hard decision. Now that I'm up here, these don't look that bad. But it's really hard to want to do all the work just to get turned around. I think I'm going to kind of move up and reassess further up there. Well, I've made the very hard decision to turn around. It really stinks. Truchas Peak is one of 2 peaks I have toward my 2022 P2K goal. And unfortunately, I don't think, I find it very unlikely that I'll find the time to summit it. I'm pretty convinced now that this is by and far best done as a backpack. This 15-mile or 16-mile round trip is doable, but there's so many down trees, and then there's off trail portions, and it's a lot of work. And that's kind of what's turning me off right now, is that these clouds, just in the 5 minutes I've sat here pondering this, are multiplying. And you can see more proto clouds, right? These are like proto clouds that'll form. And those out there, it looks like there might be a little bit of a scrambly section right there. And that's just going to slow me down. I mean, there's some maybe class 2 stuff down here and right up there. So it's just doesn't seem like it's going to work out. I mean, and just like in the time I've sat here saying this, it's cooled off. The wind has picked up a little bit. I think that the weather is telling me not today. This west route is certainly doable. And I could have shaved off probably an extra 1/2 mile to 1/4 mile if I had driven all the way to the trailhead. I got confused at the trailhead and sort of parked a little bit further back than it actually was. But yeah, I'm not going to tempt fate. It started raining over there. I don't think anything's hitting ground yet, so it's just Virga or whatever it's called, but it's convincing me that I made the right decision not to summit the peak, though. Can't say I'm any happier about it, just I guess I feel vindicated for what it's worth. Okay, time to pack up, head down. I'm kind of hoping I start hearing thunder within the next hour or two, because that would vindicate my decision to not complete the peak. I mean, when you have a bunch of things that look like thunderclouds and you start seeing Virga in the distance, it definitely does suggest that actual thunderstorms are not far behind, but you know, that's a chance you take. Once again, I think this west route is totally doable. Definitely doable as a day hike, but it's a lot of work. I mean, it's at least 4,500 feet of elevation gain one way. I don't think I mentioned, but after you hit the dome, which is 11,300, you drop 500 feet, like pretty much instantly. And what that means is that you pretty much have to gain it back. So, you know, when I got there, I think I said something like, well, I'm halfway there. vertically, and I really wasn't, because it wasn't until like a mile or two later that I actually got back to 11,300 and was actually halfway there. So it's definitely a hard hike. Certainly think I could have done it had the weather looked good. I mean, this time last year was when I did the Baldy Mountain hike, and by that time it was post-monsoon. So monsoon going a little later than I expected. Kind of pegged last weekend for this trip, but it was the same deal. It was high chances of afternoon storms come like 11 or 12, and I knew it was the same thing. It's like you can only, because of the quality of the roads and the fact that this area is so unknown and there's just not a lot of information about it, it's very hard to commit to showing up before sunrise. 11:31, and that was definitely a thunderclap. So yeah, it's really disappointing. I mean, this is part and parcel of hiking in New Mexico, is like from June to September you have the potential for monsoon pattern storms. And actually, one of the reasons why I targeted this Friday today was because all week it was showing very, very minimal chances of precipitation much later in the day. But I think because it's been so hot this week, and because there's some moisture that's moved in from all the, I mean, there's like 3 hurricanes that just hit the North America coast. I think that's anticipated to bring, like I woke up this morning and was really disappointed by what the weather said, because it showed much higher chances than it was showing all week. And I decided to risk it, and well, I didn't get to summit Truchas, but I got a really good workout. And I guess I bagged the dome, which is, that mountain sucked. Okay, I've returned to my cache, and it's been thundering pretty constantly since like 11:30. So once again, I think I've said it 3 times now. I feel vindicated, but it doesn't change the fact that I haven't climbed the mountain. Well, I'm still east of the dome, and it started hailing. Hopefully it stays small, because I don't really know what I'm supposed to do if it gets big, other than put my backpack over my head and wait it out, I guess. This is how bad the trail is in this deadfall section. This is the trail, and they've marked it with ribbon. This is incredibly brutal. Okay, back to the car. It was a long, strenuous trip. Really the deadfall. I mean, there's some steep sections, but the deadfall was really the tough part. So anyway, thanks for joining me. Hopefully sometime in the future, I'm finally summiting Truchas Peak. Talk to you later.